Welcome to the very first episode of Decoded with Farce Knight. That's me. My new podcast that's available wherever you watch podcasts, listen to podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever it may be. I'll have everything linked in the description so you can get it at your convenience. Today we have on a popular full stack development YouTuber, Jesse. He runs the channel CodeStacker, which is an amazing YouTube channel that has web development tutorials, as well as his CodeStacker Weekly, which is something that y'all need to check out. And I want to give him a big thank you for being the first guest on this podcast. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I'm trying my best here, but it was big of him to come on and be the very first guest while I'm still working out the kinks and everything. So I'm going to leave his channel linked below. If you're a full stack development, especially if you're interested in JavaScript and everything else that we talk about in today's podcast, check out his channel, subscribe. I think you'll get a lot of value out of his channel. So on with the podcast, which this episode is brought to you by Tab9 Teams, the AI code assistant, and Break the Code 2 by .tech Domains, which is a really cool retro style contest game. But more on those later. So really the idea of this podcast is just to kind of have, cool talks with creators and developers, and obviously you fit the bill there. So I love people's origin stories and then stories in like projects and whatnot that people are working on, so that I kind of want to talk a bit about that. I know you're a full stack developer. You do what? Are you JavaScript mostly in full stack?
Yeah, JavaScript. So I like Node.js on the back end. I prefer React. Lately I've been using Next.js. Just love Next.js. So like that's my main bread and butter kind of. I like that sort of stuff.
So you're probably cringing at my video where I was trying to compare JavaScript to Java, and I just got everything wrong when it came to JavaScript. Like I literally left a comment. I was like, look, this is one of the reasons why I make videos, is so I can learn from other people. And I just kind of put myself out there and just got destroyed because I'm not a JavaScript developer. I've worked on it on and off for the past year. Obviously, you dabble with it when you first start learning programming and whatnot. But I'm like most of my work was Java. TypeScript is what I used. And when I went over to JavaScript, I'm like, this is different.
Yeah. It's a little bit like the Wild West a bit, but if you throw TypeScript in there, then TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript, so it's basically the same thing, just adding the types to it. But that's kind of like I started out a little bit of Python, and I've done some C#, some .NET work, but like JavaScript I've just really gravitated to it, and it's just, I don't know, I just love JavaScript. I don't know why. Like I've tried Java and I've tried other ones. It's like, I don't know, it's a little too much work. I don't have as much free reign, I guess.
Yeah, I can see that. Did you use JavaScript before? Do you use JavaScript just on the front end first, and then like, oh look, Node.js, I can just use JavaScript throughout the entire application? You're like, this is great. Exactly.
So like a lot of people will start out as a front end developer because it's just so easy to see your results, right? You've got that instant gratification of, I can see it actually working. And so that's where I started on the front end, JavaScript, CSS, doing design work, stuff like that. And then I started, let me start looking into back end technologies, and that's when I was like, .NET, and started doing some C# and stuff like that. And then let me look at this Node.js thing, and then I was like, well, I could do everything with Node.js. I already know JavaScript, so yeah, let's just roll with it.
How did you feel about C#? Did you like it, or it was just
I mean, it's okay. It's okay. It was mainly because the company that I worked for, they were big on .NET, and so I had to learn that. I had to do some of that back end stuff.
I see.
And that was it was out of necessity. It wasn't my go-to. Like I said, once I figured out Node.js and Java, JavaScript, I could use that. Well, yeah, that was it.
Definitely, because a lot of people say C# is Java done right. I've dabbled in C#, but not enough to really like confirm that theory. I was curious about that.
Yeah.
On the database end for your apps, so do you typically use MongoDB?
Well, I kind of have to say that because I work for MongoDB, but
that's what I thought, because I watched your Stacker News Weekly, and you said something about the MongoDB podcast, and you say we talk about this. I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. So I'm a developer advocate at MongoDB. So
Very
my
cool.
previous employer, they were a big Microsoft company, and so .NET and SQL, so like Microsoft's SQL. So I used that for many, many years. And then recently, after kind of venturing out a bit, discovered, NoSQL, and then MongoDB, and then like from that's basically my go-to now, is MongoDB, just because of the ease of use. Like it's just so easy to get up and going. I'm not going to say MongoDB is the best for everything. Like there is no one technology that is the best for everything. It depends on the use case. It depends on what you're trying to do, whether you should go with a different database or a different front end, a different back end. That's all dependent on the application.
Okay. And do you typically like just host it on like AWS or something?
I tend to go to Vercel or Netlify. I kind of go back and forth between those two. Those are the ones that I prefer.
That's a selfish question. I was curious because I have a few like projects. I'm like, I don't know where to put it.
Yeah. Well, if it's just a purely backend, I've actually been researching, because I was like Heroku was like my go-to, but now I'm kind of second guessing that, and I might try out DigitalOcean, maybe a couple of different things. If it's just a purely backend Node.js server, I'll go with one of those.
I'm with you. Okay. Because I've been dabbling with Linode a bit. And let's take a quick break to talk about my favorite coding tool right now, which is Tabnine. It's an AI code completion tool available with whatever language you use and whatever IDE you use. And where you lack in a particular language, or instead of having to look something up every single time you face a syntactical issue or trying to figure something out in a particular language, Tabnine is there to help you out with code suggestions. Now, there is a free version, but there is a better version, a pro version, Tabnine Teams. It has a more advanced AI and it has language-specific models, so it'll give you longer and more accurate code suggestions. But how it's so good for teams is that it recognizes all of the code patterns and preferences that your team uses, tries to improve on those to make sure it is best practice, using that best practice in the team's code patterns for the code suggestions. That way the entire team is consistent across the board in terms of your code base. So overall, it should increase productivity and just make coding a whole lot easier and a bit more enjoyable. So again, if you're interested in Tabnine or Tabnine Teams Pro, click the link in the top of the description. Thank you, Tabnine, for the sponsor. Now back to the podcast. How long have you been a developer?
So I've been a developer for probably close to 12 years or so.
Years.
Yeah. Yeah. So I started out on the hardware side of things. Like I always, like in high school, loved computers. So I knew I was going to do something with computers. And never once did I think about software. It was always about like the hardware. And so like back then, clone computers was a thing. Like there was these little mom and pop shops everywhere building clone computers. And so that's what I started out like on the hardware side, building computers. And then I got into networking, and then I actually got up to like Cisco networking and installing large scale deployments of networks and servers. And then I had to build this application to kind of streamline this thing that we were doing, and I used Python, and it's like, well, this is pretty cool. I never really thought about software, and it's like it just hit me like I got to do this now. so I transitioned from the hardware to the software.
Very cool.
Yeah,
I like that natural transition, because a lot of people, I was probably one of these. Like I always had an interest, but I also just wanted to get into it. So I I tried to learn this, I tried to learn that, I tried to do this, but I love it when people just kind of fall into it, because it's something that you don't know how much money people make or the work-life balance. You're not watching, day in the life YouTube video. You're not doing all of that stuff. You're just, going about your day, and then boom, you stumble into it, try to put something together with Python, and wow, this is fun. Let me just follow this path, and you go with it.
Yeah.
I always like those more than like my own story. But speaking of which, did you go to school for like any of the hardware, or you just get like networking certificates on that side of things, or what?
Yeah, so I went to college, but not for computer science. I went to college for electronics technology. And so this was back in the 90s, so kind of dating myself. That's when I was in college. And back then there weren't a lot of computer sciencey type courses that you could take at that point in time. Like there were some little computer classes here and there, whatever. But like, so this was like the closest computer course that I could take. And so it was really like component level electronics. Like again, on the hardware side, I thought I was going to be on the hardware side of things. And so like actually like building computer components was like where I was going. But then like it kind of took a detour. And so as far as like the networking, all the the different certificates, yeah, I just kind of did that on my own. And then all of the software stuff has just all been completely self-taught.
Very cool. Like, did you buy courses? Did you just use YouTube?
Mostly YouTube.
Nice.
Yeah, I would say 90% YouTube. Yeah, of
Brad
course.
Traversy, maybe?
Of course, Traversy. Of course.
Yep.
Yeah, Brad has taught me quite a bit. Yes, for sure.
Yeah, same. Especially when I was trying to work with like EmergeStack or something and some other things. I'm like, wow, this is very nice to have some of these resources just, available at your fingertips. Just type it in, boom, there it is.
I would love to know if there are any developers out there that have not learned something from Brad. Like that, I mean, seriously.
I'd be amazed.
Yeah.
I'd be amazed because, it doesn't matter if you are purely self-taught like yourself, or you went, computer science degree, or you went boot camp, whatever it may be. You're self-taught like to an extent. If you don't try to teach yourself, it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
You got to be able to put in more and more time. So with that, in every single programmer out there, you had to have come across that, unless you're like completely away from web development, right? Isn't that what he's mostly web development, correct?
Yeah, mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So unless you're away from that, then maybe.
Yeah. Even if you go the college route, CS degree, no matter what, you're not going to learn everything that you need to be job ready. Like you have to teach yourself. And then even after that, things change on a daily basis. Like you have to keep up with things. You have to continue to self-teach. It's not like you just learn it and you're good. So
yeah, 100%. I wasn't job ready when I came out with a degree. I mean, I wasn't the best student in the world. I was okay, but at the same time, when I came out, I wasn't job ready. I got the job and I did, the best I could, and kind of filled the role a little bit. But I was lucky enough that I got a job where they understood that.
Yeah,
and that was good. And also, they were really smart, so they could help me out a lot. But also, they were really like I always tell people, there's most programmers, they, face an issue. They'll go online, try to search to solve that bug or to, whatever it may be. But I feel like these two programmers that were on my team, like when I worked, I felt like they were beyond that. Not like from their point of view, but from my point of view, I'm like, y'all are really good. Like, I'm on this problem for like 2-3 hours. I'm like, see, I'm having trouble here, this, and that. And they're like, oh yeah, you just do this, and this. I'm like, okay, try it, works. I'm like, so it would be nice for that help, but a little discouraging. I'm like, am I ever going to get there? Yeah. I'm not, but maybe one day.
Yeah, no, it just takes time. I mean, those kind of things come with experience, and you can't expect someone to come straight out of a boot camp or college with that experience. So it takes time. And the good thing is surrounding yourself with people that can help you and that can teach you and that are willing to do that. So.
See, that's really good. I don't really have too many people around me that I don't have any like friends now who do what I do. I'm not saying like I haven't made friends that are kind of in this realm, but I'm very I have like a tight circle of people I've known from like, middle school, give or take, and none of them went the same route as me, which is fine. But it's also like, it would be nicer if someone could have like a buddy side by side learning with them, and y'all just like go up together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I find that the programming community is just awesome. Whether it's on Twitter or wherever you're at. Anytime you have an issue, I mean, Stack Overflow even, you have an issue, there's going to be someone there that's going to try to help you out. And so I love the community.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I have had my gripes with Stack Overflow in the past. However, I think everybody's come across something with Stack Overflow, but there's definitely a lot of good resources and a lot of good people. You just have to, just like in anything in life, you just have to find the good people in a lot of the louder people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
I am curious. I know you've made at least one video about like VS Code, correct?
Oh yeah.
Is that your primary text editor?
Oh yes. I love VS Code. I just use that for anything. I use that to write my blog articles. Like I use it for everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I love it. I write in Markdown. So yeah, I use it for everything. So VS Code videos in particular just do very well on YouTube. So I kind of caught on to that and focused on VS Code quite a bit. I even have a VS Code course. And so like that is like, I love learning. Every month VS Code is updated and they always are improving and adding new features. And so, I'll always make a video. Here's this new feature. It does this, just to help the community out as well. Because if you don't know about these features, you don't know how helpful VS Code can be if you know the right, shortcuts or whatever. Then it can speed up your productivity quite a bit. There are a lot of other text editors, and I don't have anything against the others. I just have gravitated towards VS Code.
Sure. And I do like some of those tips, like even with like GitHub. You made a tip about, dark and light mode and some of the icons not showing up, right? So like just those little things that you don't really think about, because if you're in dark mode all the time, you're not going to think, oh, how are these icons going to look on light mode, right? Some people will. Some people are thorough testers, but not everybody.
Yeah.
And just those little things, I find so interesting because they're important. It's those details.
Exactly. And those things are things that I come across in my daily, day-to-day coding life. And as I come across these issues or these things and I learn how to do it, that's when I share it. And so I make a video about it or a blog post or whatever it might be, a tweet about it, just because I just learned something cool that has helped me and I want to share it so that it might help somebody else.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the best way to go about it, because it's instead of, just trying to figure out what to create, and you're like, oh, what should I make a video about? You're like, let's just make a video about the things that I find interesting in my day-to-day dev life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The little tips or whatever it may be. Not to say there's not a place for all the other content, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing about YouTube is I never want it to be something that I have to do, I want it to be exciting, and I want to make content that I'm excited about. Otherwise, it's just not going to come across the right way, It's just going to be a job. I don't want it to be a job.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. And I know that feeling. And I feel like a lot of people can relate to that when it comes to coding as well. I mean, just think about it. Everyone has had like a particular project idea that they really want to work on, and then they've had maybe something that they have to do for work or something that they feel like they need to do, right? I don't know about everybody else, but for myself, those that I just find so interesting, like when I made the what was it, the dislike, restoring the dislike, like the dislike count and putting in the comment section and whatnot, like I knocked that out in a day. Like I sat there for like 8 hours just like researching and playing and fiddling and trying to get it going. If I had all of these tasks that I needed to knock out, after 4 hour mark, I'd be like, okay, my brain is melted, I'm done for the day, I'll come back tomorrow.
It's amazing how much longer you can work when it's something you're excited about. And I mean, I love learning. Like I'm just that type of person. And so when I'm excited about something and it's a new technology and I'm learning it, and it's like, I'll just, 12 hours will pass and I won't even realize it.
Those days are the best days. Sometimes it's like, whoa, you get a little disoriented. You're like, wait, it's dark outside now? Or man, I haven't eaten in 6 hours or something along those lines, and it's crazy. But it's just so satisfying, after that, because you kind of just got lost in it. And that's where I feel like the best in terms of creativity and the best productivity and all that stems from. Something that I've always told myself is when it comes to needing to do something like we were talking about, you have this task and you just got to do the task and that's it. But if you kind of get lost in it, you're able to research a particular topic that you find a little bit interesting for 3 hours. And you don't feel bad about it because, I just wasted 3 hours and I haven't completed the task. That's part of the process.
Yeah. Learning things as you go, and then the next time you come across that same thing, you already know.
And a quick word from our sponsor, Break the Code 2 by .tech Domains. Raise your hand if you are participating in probably the coolest game contest that I've ever seen, Break the Code 2 by .tech Domains, which is going on right now. So the way it works, it's a contest that's structured into 4 drives that are made available to the code breakers based on the schedule. So with drive 1 starting already on March 25th, drive 2 starting on March 31st, drive 3 on April 6th, and then 4 on April 12th. But each one has a grand prize, a modern grand prize. This is a custom skinned PS5. Drive 2 is a custom skinned MacBook Pro. Drive 3 is $5,000 worth of ETH. Drive 4 is the grand prize. It's a Codebreakers layer, a custom gaming rig and monitor with a motorized chair. So if you really want to test what you got, you want to see how good you are at coding and if you can go toe to toe with some of the best out there, click the link in the top of the description. It'll take you to this website right here. Estimated time remaining right now is 18 days. When you're watching this video, it's going to be less, so take advantage of the time that you got right now. And a matter of fact, I'm going to sign up myself. Thanks to .tech Domains for the sponsor. back to the podcast. Do you have any projects ongoing right now? Aside from like, you have your website, right? And you update that with what, blogs and whatnot?
Yeah, well, honestly, I've kind of neglected it. I haven't I haven't posted any blog articles in quite a while. I've been putting most of them on MongoDBs. Obviously, YouTube is my main source of content. I have the VS Code course. Other than that, I recently kind of fell into NFTs and like the whole crypto, universe.
Research and whatnot. Purchasing.
So it stemmed from a sponsor, and I don't take very many sponsors lately, but there was this one sponsor that I thought that they came up with this really great idea, and I had to I planned on looking into crypto and NFTs and all of this at some point, but not this soon. Like, I've just got a lot on my plate right now. But they came to me with this, and I was like, man, this is really cool. I want to start learning about it. So I looked into it, and then I just couldn't stop looking.
Yeah.
I had to keep going. Like, it was just this rabbit hole that I just couldn't stop going down. It's
because
very
there's something about it you don't understand, and you're just like, I need to know more. It's like, why does everyone else knows about this?
Exactly.
It seems to be interesting. Let me just dive in and keep on going.
Exactly. Yes. And it's a very polarized community right now because there are a lot of issues and there is a lot of potential. And so I really... I understand both sides completely, and so
100%.
I think that the idea is solid. The execution is not quite there, but I mean that's with anything. Anything that is new is going to be in that state. So, my point of view is, how can we get it to where it needs to go?
I'm with you 100% because right now it's just, whenever people think of NFTs, they think of overpriced JPEGs.
Yes.
Right. And the NFT is like basically the proof of ownership. It's like the deed to the house, the title to the car, saying that I own this. There's also the problem of like, these JPEGs being stored in a non-decentralized server. But that's, that's something I think will get worked out in the future. That's why people like the 8-bit stuff, because this can live on chain.
Right.
But I think people, in order to really like understand and be accepting to NFTs, the technology, they need to get the whole JPEG thing out of their head. Like, personally, I don't understand why people spend so much money on that, but I also don't understand why people spend so much money on like art.
Right.
Like this I made for $1, right? A lot of people spend $50 million.
Right.
Maybe it's money laundering. Maybe they just really like the art. I don't know. Who knows? But they need to get that out of their head and look at the actual use cases for it. And one that I like to bring up is, say you... I have no books in here. I have some back there. But say you buy a physical book for $20, right? And you buy that book for $20, you read it, and then, you can give it away, or you can, sell it for $10, whatever it may be. So you can use that $10, towards another book. Some people just like to put them on the shelves, whatever. But with an ebook, you take the ebook and you buy it for $20, you read it, and you're not allowed to resell it. The copyright and everything, and there's not really a marketplace, obviously, because copyright and whatnot. But imagine if that was an NFT. Then you could resell it, recoup some of that initial investment, and not only that, but the original author of that ebook gets, the 10% royalty kickback.
Yes.
So once we get to that and figure out all of the gas fee stuff, right? Because that's a lot. That's more than the $20 book costs. Then those types of use cases, I think, make sense. Or if you get like a year-long membership to something. Like maybe you get a ski pass, right? And you break your leg on the second go. Well, okay, now you're out for the season. Instead, you can take that ski pass, sell it to the next person because it's an NFT, and you're good. I don't know if you're allowed to do that now with the actual. Probably not. I don't know.
I don't know. Might be some gray areas.
But that's
there,
an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are great ideas. I mean, there are so many ideas. I think that, the art was a good maybe first use case, but it has really blown up, and that now that's all that people think of when you say NFT. But there are so many use cases. Like, I think of like deeds to a house, titles on a car, like driver's licenses, passports, like all of these things that would be great to be decentralized, just because of so many reasons. I think the decentralization aspect or idea behind everything is great. It's just, how do we improve on that execution of it, and how do we expand it to other markets and other industries?
Yeah, and there's the problem of like, say the chain, the decentralized chain as like a highway, most of these on-ramps for the highway are centralized companies.
Yeah.
Which like OpenSea, that's centralized company. They can say they're decentralized, but they're not. They can remove NFTs, which has been proven by an individual who he created a project where I just read this last month or something. He created a project, like a little NFT project. However, depending on where you're viewing that NFT from, it displayed a different image.
Whoa.
And then OpenSea, I guess, caught wind of this. Supposedly, that breached the terms of service. It got pulled. But also getting pulled from there also got pulled from the MetaMask wallet. I'm not sure exactly how that works unless MetaMask like pulls from OpenSea or what have you, but it's been it's been a month or so since I've read this article, but it was very interesting.
Yeah, no, I'd love to read about that. I like looking into all of the different, you always have different competitors when something is in its, infancy stage. You have the whole Blu-ray versus HD, whatever it was called. I can't remember now, but Blu-ray Run won, obviously, right? And so you've got, Ethereum, and then different, Polygon, which is on Ethereum, and then you've got Cardano and all of these different ones. It's like exciting to see what each of these come up with, what technologies they all come up with, and then like who's going to win, like who is going to, lead that. Right now Ethereum is, but like you said, gas fees, you got all kinds of things to figure out. But I think the more of us that kind of get on board and try to help, the better it'll be.
Yeah, I think that's the way to look at it, because right now, I mean, a lot of people want to say this and that about it, but we've been through this. People call the internet a fad.
Yeah.
And a lot of other things that were groundbreaking at the time, too big for people to comprehend.
Yeah.
A fad. And I think this, like, just Web 3.0 all in all, kind of especially NFTs, because of the whole, influencer stuff and whatnot. And I don't know if you're familiar with CoffeeZilla and all that stuff, but that type of like negativity in the space definitely set it back. But I think the more good that you can like point out in it and bring out in it, the better it'll be received by the public, and the better that it'll progress.
I think we are on the same page.
Something else that I'm curious about is, when and why did you start YouTube?
It's an interesting story. Okay, I never would have thought that I would have a YouTube channel, do any sort of public speaking or anything like this, because I am naturally an introvert. I don't really, normally this is not what I would do. So, So the deal was, I've got a couple of teenagers, and they're just like, it's summertime, and they're just like playing video games and watching TV and stuff. I'm like, let's try to come up with an idea, like some kind of business strategy. Let's think ahead a little bit. And they came up with the idea of creating YouTube channels. My son was going to create a gaming YouTube channel. My daughter was going to do just like beauty and fashion YouTube channel. It was they just talked about it. They never executed. And so, so then I thought, well, I mean, if you put your mind to it, you could do anything. Let me try to prove a point here. And so I didn't tell anybody, and I started the YouTube channel, and I put up a video and people watched it. So I put up another video and people watched it. And so I was like, okay, if I get to 300, I don't know why 300. This is what I thought. If I get to 300 subscribers, I'll tell my family. Like I didn't even tell my wife. Like, yeah. It's like, so I pretty quickly got to 300 subscribers, and then I told them, and they giggled and laughed for a bit. And then I said, well, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm just going to put up a video a week and see what happens. And it just continued to grow and grow. And it actually took quite a while, like several months, before they finally realized, like, oh, this is like really, really going to work out.
That's awesome. That's kind of similar to my story, because I didn't tell anyone either. A lot of people try to tell to get, watch my video, but I didn't tell anyone. Well, first off, I made a bunch of random videos at the beginning of it just to create random videos, right? But then I was a computer science student and doing like iOS development stuff. I'm like, let me just share this, because I wish, I could watch someone else go through the same thing. So I'm going to share this, so if someone else comes along, they can watch it too. It wasn't until I was closer to like 10,000 subscribers. So maybe I've been doing it for a year and a half, maybe a little bit longer, until I told, like, I guess my parents, and then maybe my brothers found out a little bit after that. Like, I told them. I don't remember. I didn't really care to tell anybody. It's just like, this is what I wanted to do, and I'll just put it over here, and that's that.
Yeah. I kind of cringe telling, family and friends. It's like, because they don't need to watch it. It's not content that they're going to enjoy watching, right? Like, it's not the embarrassment or anything. It's more of a, this is going to be super boring for you. You don't need to watch this.
Yeah, I get like messages from some family members and whatnot. They watch it just, so they could see me. We don't hang out, whatever. We only like go fishing like once a month, whatever it may be. So they watch that so they could see me. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about, but great video the other day. I'm like, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So the very first like few videos you uploaded was all like related to coding, right?
Yeah, everything has always been related to coding. The very first video, believe it or not, was a VS Code video. And
nice.
And it did.
So you found out early,
yes,
that everyone liked VS Code videos, huh?
Exactly. Yeah, and it was just a basic, like, here's how to set up VS Code. Like, it was a 5-minute video. Here's how to set up, and it was my #1 performing video for the first 2 years. Like, it was always at the top. Like, after 2 years, it was still #1.
That's awesome.
So yeah, and it sucks too, because
a good way to get started though, for sure.
Yeah. I had this like glaring spelling typo in the video. It's like, for 2 years straight, people commenting, you misspelled this. Yes, I know. It was a late night. I know how to spell, I promise.
To be fair, that may have contributed. You got a lot of more engagement with the comments, and people are like, oh, people are engaging with this video, and they're continuing to watch it probably as they're typing the comments. So you got more watch time, more engagement.
I need to do that again.
I feel like there are people who intentionally do that. I can't prove this, but I feel like there are people who intentionally like call something weird, or maybe they'll do a typo on the screen or what have you. I feel like I've seen videos where I'm like, there's no way you slip of the tongue. I understand, but I feel like you're intentionally calling that something different just for engagement.
Like Java and JavaScript.
Yeah, kind of like that.
There you go.
Oh, that's hilarious. I had a team of, I had an editor like for a couple months last year. You can kind of tell if you go on my channel, like all the ones are kind of the same. But I forget what video it was, but I was talking about, I guess, some programming languages, and the editor made my thumbnail. I do everything now again, but because I haven't uploaded in like 2 months, but I'll get back to it in March. So the thumbnail they put on like HTML, CSS, whatever it was, and then JavaScript. But it was like a thumbnail, or it was an image that someone put together where it was the Java mug and the Java text, but it said JavaScript.
Oh, wow.
And I was tempted to leave it, but I'm like, nah, let's just put the regular JavaScript there. So I asked them to change it, but people don't know. Like, I try to tell people, like, so they're programming languages, right? So they have that in common. But aside from that, just think of it as car and carpet. They're not exactly the same thing. There may be carpet in your car.
I'm going to use that.
There you go. Take it.
I mean, it's a very common issue. People getting Java and JavaScript mixed up. And it just comes from, like, Java was the hot thing when JavaScript was created. And they were trying to figure out what they wanted to name JavaScript. And they said, well, JavaScript. Let's kind of ride this wave. And they named it JavaScript. So.
Hey, I mean, it tended to work out for them.
Yeah.
Is JavaScript the largest language? Like, most widely used?
I mean, I would think that it probably should be, because, I mean, it's like the language of the web. Like, you have to kind of use it in every web application. I don't know. I don't know for a fact.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I know Python is on the come up. I mean, like, it has been for a while, but I feel like every single year it's just like jumping spots. It passed over, basically all my languages, and then just keeps on going. It's like in it's in like, top 3, I believe.
As far as like ease of use and ease of learning, like, Python is super, super easy.
I want to kind of go back to just a quick question regarding, like, so you went to college for, what, electronics technology?
Yeah.
So, and you're self-taught when it comes to software development. Do you have an opinion on the route you think people should go, whether that if they want to be a full stack developer, web developer of any kind? Let's focus on that. You think there's, like, because computer science, that's a lot of stuff, very broad, unless you like take a bunch of, those 400 level courses that are web development specific, then how much are you really going to learn in terms of web development? Yeah. I'm curious your thoughts, like computer science boot camp or software engineering degree, whatever it may be, or self-taught.
I think, I get asked that question a lot. And so I think that no matter what, you have to self-teach. I would not tell someone who doesn't have the means to go to college to take out a loan and go to college. I wouldn't say that. I think that you will learn stuff at college. You will learn some practical things that you can apply to your job, but it's not going to be job specific things, right? And so I think that college is helpful, but I don't think that it's necessary. So it's more of a, if you can, sure, but if you can't afford it, don't take out a loan to do that, because you can learn all this stuff on your own.
Yeah. I think I'm in the, I'm definitely in the same category as you, because, there are a lot of different situations out there. If someone, if your parents are paying for your college, then, if that's, that's something that interests you and you kind of want to go down that route, then go for it. Your parents are paying for it, just make sure you get the good grades and, do your best there, and you'll have a good time. People love going away to their 4-year college, and they have a great experience and make a lot of new friends, and they learn. And a good thing about college is that you learn how to learn, as long as you, do things properly. And that's why a lot of like companies, I feel like, really like computer science, college degrees, because it, not always, but it typically will show them that, okay, this person can actually catch on to things and learn, and that's how they made it through all these classes. But I'm always on the state of mind that a portfolio is more important than a degree. Like, you showing me what you have built and what you can build is more important than the grades you got at school.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
That's always been my point of view on it. Right now, this is a whole nother topic, but right now, like, college is just incredibly expensive, regardless of how you slice it, whether you live at home, community college is obviously a good choice to get all those like regular classes, the general education requirements out of the way, maybe a few detailed classes that you like, and then go, the next 2 years and specify to get that bachelor's degree in whatever you want to do. That's a really good way to go about it. In all honesty, when I went to that's how I did it. But when I went to ODU in my college, I actually every single semester I would look at the courses, and then I would look at my community college, because they convert perfectly, because they're basically right next to each other. Calc 2 at my community college directly transfers as a Calc 2 credit at my regular college. So all of those types of classes that were general education requirements, and I could satisfy them at community college, that's what I did. I just did them online, and they were way, way, way cheaper than doing it at the regular college. Like 10% of the price, 20% of the price, whatever it may have been.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times too, it's kind of the misconception of, I need a degree in order to get this job, or, there is that gate, sort of in other industries where obviously it's necessary to have a degree to be a doctor, but
sure.
In this industry, it's not required. Like, I have never been asked on any job interview if I have a computer science degree. I've never been asked that. I've been, told, let me see what you've worked on. And then, of course, you go through the technical interview where they can see what you know. And you really have to prove yourself to get the job. It's not about what's on paper.
Yeah, 100%. And when it comes to the computer science degree, I feel like the barrier is definitely being like broken down, at least over the past like 5 years, maybe a little bit longer, where more and more companies are saying we care less and less about this computer science degree. Because, I mean, obviously with your instance, they didn't care. They just wanted to see what you could do. But a lot of companies, let's look at the resume. No computer science degree, trash. Like some companies still do that and have done that over the past 5-10 years.
That's not a company that you want to work for.
No, that's true. So maybe they saved you a little bit.
There you go.
But that barrier is definitely being broken down to where they care less and less, which I think is a good route to take.
I agree.
And that's it. I don't know how to end a podcast yet, so subscribe, follow, whatever. Make sure you check the description on the YouTube video and follow CodeStacker over there. He does make some really good videos again. And I don't know. I'll see you all here soon. Bye.